There's only one definitive fact that we all as a community know about Persona 6, and that is simply that it exists. Beyond that, this game is a mystery, a big, big mystery. But that doesn't stop us from speculating on, what it could be, or more importantly, what we would want it to be. So that's why we're here today. Today we're going to be talking about what we would like to see, what I would like to see in the next Persona game, and really just the series moving forward from here. Because this game series, this franchise, it's in a very interesting position right now, and I want to talk about it, so let's get into it. So starting off right away, I have some general thoughts about the future of the franchise and what direction I'd like to see it go. And with Persona 6 in particular, I would actually really love to see the return of a female protagonist. I've been saying this for a little while, but in the past, we definitely have had females take the lead. I mean, we've got Maya in Persona 2, and of course, Kotane in Persona 3 Portable, but I mean, that's kind of it, right? So Maya is one half of the Persona 2 duology, protagonists, and then Kotane is one half of the Persona 3 protagonists, and she's in this weird limbo state where we don't really know if she's even canon. So I don't really know if I can count her. So, even if we count her though, it's been a little while since we've had a female protagonist. I do think this series could totally use it. Even if it is just an option, I do think that option should return in a more canon sense. Maybe even some sort of character customization. I'm sure that would kind of go against the anime cutscenes, so they might not want to do something like that, but I would be all for it. At the very least, I do think we should see, a female protagonist in the next game. I think that would be a really nice refresher for the series, and would be really cool to see. And now this next point, I know everyone has said this already, but I would really love to see a green color scheme for Persona 6. I know, everyone said this, but there's a reason everyone said this, and it's because it is the next logical step. We've had pretty much every other color, and green is surprisingly not one of them. So, hey, green color scheme for the next game, I think it'd look great, and there's a lot of cool color theory stuff that you could do, around the color green and what it could mean for the story. I'm not going to get into any of that today, but green, that should be the color of the game. And speaking of green, another huge thing. This is, if I could only get one thing on this list, this is the thing I would get. Multi-platform release. Green, of course, being Xbox, right? But multi-platform release, it's time, Atlas. We've already dipped our toes into the water with, certain games like Strikers releasing on multiple platforms at the same time. And then, of course, this huge breakthrough Persona, or whatever, breakthrough Persona, where they put all the games, on multiple platforms, all the Persona games on PC, and then they're coming to Xbox, even Game Pass, and Switch, of course. So, hey, look, it's time. Persona 6 should launch on PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and PC, day and date. Maybe not Switch if this is going to be a few years out, but whatever Nintendo's current hardware is, this series, this game has more than earned the right to go multi-platform. I think it would be really dumb not to, and I really hope that Sony or Microsoft or whoever, doesn't try to money hat, exclusivity for this next game, because honestly, it really needs, a full multi-platform launch to be experienced by as many people as possible. Persona's riding high off of Persona 5, being such a huge game, so successful, really bringing the franchise into the limelight, of course, with the Smash Brothers appearance and all these other things, and then, of course, just this game being very welcome in the mainstream, that not capitalizing that by making the next game, multi-platform, especially after releasing Persona 5 and the previous games, on multiple platforms, like, it would be dumb not to. You would be shooting yourself in the foot not doing that, and that is an absolute must. That is the one thing. If I can only get one of these items, guaranteed, it would be that multi-platform release. Another thing I'd really like to see in Persona 6 is just overall a better treatment of their LGBT characters. Honestly, regardless of whether or not we have a male or female protagonist in Persona 6, I do think there should be at least a handful of same-sex relationship options as well. I do think it's time, right? Persona series has been around for a while, and obviously times have changed, just a bit, since the initial releases of this series here. But honestly, this series has always kind of struggled with their depiction of especially gay people, and it does seem like there's been times where they've really tried to dip their toes in that direction. I mean, there's definitely some cut content, some cut dialogue with Yosuke in Persona 4 that implies that they were definitely trying or wanting to go in that direction until it was cut late in development. So hey, look, it's time. Just do the thing. Just give us some options. More options never hurt anybody, and honestly, you would make a lot of fans very happy just by giving them that option. And I super support the hell out of that. Something else I super support would actually having an aged up cast. Now, I know that the Persona series mostly focuses on high school age characters, and that's done for a very thematic purpose. But we have had adult characters before. I mean, Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, they're all out of high school, they're all adults. I think it'd be cool to do it again. There's a lot you could explore with actually being, having these characters be out of high school, be in the world and things like that. A lot of thematic stuff you could do with that. Obviously, I'm not saying this is a must-have. This is just something I think would be really cool to explore again. But I definitely would really like to see that. There's a lot you could do with that concept, and I just think that's something we've only explored a little bit. Would love to see explored again. Obviously, a lot of the real world, day elements of like the school life and things like that, might have to be changed a bit, but I could totally still see them doing, maybe you're in college, right? You can still do that school life stuff, in just a different setting. Or maybe you have a job, right? And there's certain things that you have to do in your day, day to day, to piece those job requirements. You could even perhaps tie that into the supernatural elements, right? Where something in your job is connected to the supernatural elements. I don't know, right? I'm not a writer. I'm just saying I think that'd be something cool to explore. I would love to see it, try it again. Something I've kind of noticed about the Persona series as of late is there's just generally a bit more hand-holding than there used to be. Now, I do understand that is kind of a requirement. There needs to be some amount of tutorialisms for new players. I mean, Persona is a series that has a kind of a lot going on that's pretty unique to Persona. So I do understand you need a tutorial. You need to be able to teach new players, and I'm not saying that these new players shouldn't have the ability to learn and be introduced to these new things. I just think the pacing could use a bit of work, right? Because, I mean, Persona 5 is an example. You are still getting new mechanics and, new tutorialisms like 50 hours into the game. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot that could really be condensed or introduced earlier, and just kind of take the reins off. There's a lot of instances where it's like, man, I really wish I could do what I want to do on this day, but you're kind of locked into, these kind of linear events, and then you get a little bit of freedom in between them. But I do think that reeling the reins back, giving more freedom to the player and how they experience these things, what they do with their days and how they experience the story, maybe, I do think we could just use with a little less hand-holding and a little bit more freedom, right? That's just coming from me as a guy who replays these games all the time. It's very annoying sometimes having to go through the first 20 hours of Persona 5, which first of all is phenomenal. I love especially Kamoshida's Palace. That is just a phenomenal entry point, really great starting point for the game. But that whole section of the game just feels like a big tutorial. It really does, and it's kind of unfortunate that one of the best highlight moments of the entire story is just so bogged down in tutorialisms. I just think, more freedom, more, less hand-holding would be beneficial. I would love to see that for sure. And honestly, that kind of goes hand in hand with my next point, which would be a better pacing in regards to introductions of party members. Now, obviously, I understand, especially with the way Persona works, you tend to get a new party member every major story arc. Until the end, where it kind of slows down, and then you have your final party for at least the last couple of arcs, right? But as a result, a problem with that is that the late game party members tend to not get a lot of screen time. I mean, there's plenty of jokes about like Haru, for example, not having any screen time and yada yada. And she was introduced to like the 5th palace, you know what I mean? So I do think maybe a little bit of a better pacing, of faster introduction of party members, or just making sure you take the time to really characterize those late game party members. I just don't want to see a situation with like Sumi in Persona 5 where you literally do not get her in your party until the final chapter. Like, I get what they were going for, and I understand why that happened that way, but, you know, she's a huge selling point of this game, and so not having her in your party until the end, especially when they're, like, selling DLC costumes and stuff for her, it just kind of feels weird that, like, you just don't have access to her until the last 5 hours of the game. You know, in this 120-hour game, like the last 5, maybe 10 hours, that's all you get. You know what I mean? So I would love to see just better pacing with that. Maybe, you know, introducing more party members earlier on or something. I don't know how you'd have to do that, but whatever it needs to be done in order to get the end result of giving us more time with the party members and less, you know, less Haru situations, less Sumi situations would be great. And lastly, continuing this theme of party members, I would really love to see a better emphasis on the party members' interactions outside of the supernatural elements. Now, I understand that Persona is a game highly, you know, linked to these confidant systems, these social link systems, where it gives you the time to spend time with who you want, you know, to spend time with, right? You get the choice. But I do think there should be more story events, more story beats, more scenes where you get to see these characters interacting outside of the supernatural environment and outside of the social links and confidants. You know, good to see them acting as friends, and not just with the main character, but also separately as well. Persona 5, some people think it really fell flat on this, you know, in this regard, but there are quite a few really awesome scenes where the characters do just get to like talk and be around each other, and they don't always even have to involve Ren in any way. Sometimes, like, even without Ren, like the scene where Makoto and Makoto and An, actually, where Makoto and An sit down and chat, you know, about everything that's kind of happened between them. And it's like a couple minute scene, yeah, but it's awesome. It's separate from everything going on in the plot. They just get to sit and chat and talk about what's been going on with them. And it's great, and I really like it, you know what I mean? Or, you know, this is a scene that does involve Ren, but like Hawaii in Persona 5, where you guys are, you know, in the bedroom, right, in the hotel room, talking about like, you know, Ryuji and An are talking about like, oh, who they have crushes on or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, scenes like that are awesome, and they really help characterize these people, make them feel like friends. I think we just need more of that, more scenes of them all kind of hanging out, doing stuff, both as a group and as individual pairings or whatever. More of that would be welcome, even if that, you know, has to kind of cut into the confidant or social link system, because as awesome as the social link system is, it does kind of stifle character development, right? Because not everyone's going to experience the same social links. So as a baseline, the story mode characters kind of have to be stagnant in any scene that they're in, because it has to fit, you know, anywhere in that social link, you know, progression. So you can have, like, you know, a character that you never have spoken to, right? And then in the story mode, they need to still have development, so they have like their own separate thing going on. But then other characters that you've absolutely spoken to a ton in the social links or in the confidant, and they have to still be written the same way. It applies the same to romance options as well, right? Because I'm sure anyone who's played this game would notice, you start dating somebody, that is kind of the end of the development there. There's like a couple holiday scenes like Valentine's Day or Christmas where you get to like spend time with that person, and there's a couple extra additional cutscenes or lines of dialogue that imply that you and this character are in a romantic relationship. But aside from that, any story beat, any story moment, anything that can't change and be affected by the confidants or social links has to be the same. So there's no mention, no anything. You know what I mean? So these things are all affected, and I think intertwining them more effectively into the story would kind of solve my problems. I think, honestly, even just piggybacking off of that, I know I said this is the last point, but even piggybacking off of that, I do think an expansion to the romance system would be cool as well. Obviously, there's not much that happens once you start dating a person, so I don't know, maybe having some sort of additional scenes or optional social link content after the initial, like, hey, we're dating now, because typically the way it goes is social link 9 is when you guys start dating, and then you have one final social link event that kind of like wraps that whole storyline up, and then there's nothing. It would be kind of cool to see more, and I know that's just me being a weird weeb or whatever, but it would be cool to have more content of that, because again, it kind of goes back to what I'm saying, being able to experience more of these characters, both, you know, in and outside of this, you know, confidant, social link, whatever, in and outside of that, experience more of these characters, get to know them even better, and just kind of intertwine that more with the main content, I think. I think the game that probably did it the best would have been Persona 3, but even then, like, Persona 5 and 4 both do a good job. I just think it could still be done even better. Yeah, that seems like a good place to kind of start wrapping up. There's more I could say, like, hey, I'd love to see like more depth in the combat, for example, more interesting difficulty options as well, right? Like take heavy inspiration from like Kingdom Hearts Critical Mode, where fundamental aspects of the gameplay change depending on what difficulty you're playing on, right? That'd be something I'd like to see. But hey, we've talked enough about a lot of this stuff, so let me know what you guys think. What expectations do you have going forward with the Persona series? What would you like to see in the next game? When do you think we're going to get the next game? Because honestly, I mean, we have no information, aside from knowing that there is another game coming sometime at some point down the road, right? We don't know much, so all we can do is speculate right now. But let me know, like I said, what you guys think. And hey, thank you so much for helping me, you know, kick off Persona Month 22. I'm very excited about this. Remember, giveaway stuff, that's all still happening. Just make sure to be commenting on the videos, like, subscribe, you know, do the whole thing. You guys know what to do. You guys are on top of it. Love you all. And I'll see you guys the next one. Peace.